welcome back to Great Northwest Weaponry. This is Thomas. Today we're going to be taking our look at our second gun from IWI. This is the Tavor X95. As you guys can probably tell by this point, I am a IWI fan, and I'm particularly a Tavor fan. So there's not a lot of history on this being a newer gun, but what little there is, basically around 1995, the IDF, Israeli Defense Force, wanted something smaller than the Galil Ace. It's kind of an AK-47 variant. They wanted something smaller than that for CQB. They found that the gun was just a little too long, so they started looking into development of something smaller, and out of that came the Tavor, which entered production in around 2001, was officially adopted by the IDF in 2005. So they didn't actually make it to the original Tavor didn't make it into the US until about 2013, but production on upgrading the original Tavors, of which they're known by a lot of names, the Tavor 21 or the MTAR, there's the Mini Tavor, which was update over the original MTAR. It's kind of convoluted what happened when there, because it didn't happen in the US and it's still modern, so a lot of that information is kind of left to a bit of speculation. But in about 2013, the original Tavor made it into the US in a semi-automatic format. These are for the military or select fire. But it wasn't until 2016 that the X95 arrived in the US. They were actually developed in 2009. And it's an awesome gun. I love this thing. I've got mine fitted with an EOTech 512 holographic sight, and I can co-witness, because this has iron sights. Let's see, bam, and bam. So if my optic goes out, I can still shoot. And I found that with the way that when I was sighting the optic, I did find that these are a little low. So if you were aiming at someone's like stomach, for instance, you'd probably be hitting them in the torso. Or in the case of a target, which is more likely what you're going to be using it for, aim at the bottom of the target with the iron sights and you'll probably be hitting closer to center. So it's a fascinating piece. I just went through 15 rounds. We're at about 35 yards from the target. And I've got another 15 rounder on me, so. Now your release, once you've fired, normally you would charge your first mag with the handle, but after you've fired a mag and it locks open, this right here is your release. Just give it a little bonk, slides the first round in. All right. I think that one might have just been 14. I don't know. I wasn't really counting. But it feels so nice. Recoil is very little, mostly just because of the bullpup platform, which has been a troubled platform for some guns. The first bullpup to really gain recognition would have been the Steyr AUG, or AUG, but we're Americans, so we sound out the acronym if it works, and AUG works. The Tavor was the good one, though. When the Tavor came out, it was kind of like, wow, I did not know bullpups could be that good. And the X95 is the upgraded version from that. It is the kind of the new kid on the block in the terms of bullpups. It's an awesome gun. Let's go ahead and put this thing on the table and look a little closer. So a couple spots where the X95 is an improvement, or at least an update over the original Tavor. For one, your magazine release is your AR-15 style button. You can see right here is actually the operating piece, the latch. So there's just basically like a sort of a rod that runs through here and operates this. Originally, it was like a second trigger that would come out right here, and you'd have to reach up, grab the mag, and depress the trigger to pull the mag out. They found that wasn't ideal. Also, older Tavors, your front end is solid. There's not any rails on it. This it has 3 of these plastic covers, and you depress this and then give it a tug and it exposes the rails, and you can pull that all the way off if I can get it. There we go. It's not very hard to do, but can be a little bit annoying. Getting it back on is equally annoying, but when you're setting up your gun, there should be a third one down here. I subbed that out for, opted for a foregrip. I just like how foregrip feels. So those are the monolithic rail system with, you know, rails all the way around, Picatinny rails, and the trigger release being moved to an actual button release. These are your primary updates. A couple other little things noted, the IWI US in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's where you get your Tavor X95s, actually brought in from. Parts are all made in Israel, but assembled at IWI US. Your ejection port is on the right, and this is ambidextrous. You can switch what side this is on by getting into the gun and doing a little bit of work. Also, your magazine release and safety, or your magazine release is ambidextrous in the truest sense. It functions on either side of the gun. Safety can be switched to the opposite side. It's an awesome little piece. It's very small, very compact, but this is, in fact, a full 16.5-inch long barrel, 26 and about 26.1 overall. And that all fits within the legal parameters. I actually had an instance with a cop when I was out shooting one time when he thought this was an SBR. He didn't understand the concept of the bullpup. The barrel actually ends about there, somewhere in this area, but probably more about right here is where the barrel actually goes to. So it is full length, but if you don't know what a bullpup is, then that doesn't make sense to you, and this cop did not. Your operating mechanism in a bullpup is all back here rather than over your hand. Because of that, the gun feels really back heavy when you're holding it, but it feels really nice once you brace it against your shoulder. You've got very little rise on the front end, and the recoil just kind of feels like it's pushing you a little. Disassembly is pretty easy. You can take 223 or 5.56 bullet, and this pin right here is a locked pin, and on the right side of the gun, you can just use the tip of your bullet and this little pin here, push that out, pull it the rest of the way, and then the back end of the gun should just pop open, if I can get it to. There we go. Didn't have the pin all the way free. And your whole firing assembly just slides out. It's very easy. You can get in and clean pretty easily. You can get into the back end of the barrel through the port there, and putting it back in, just make sure that you have it oriented properly, slide it back in, click it into place, slide the pin back in. It's very easy to use, very awesome gun. So military specs for these, for the ones that are actually issued for the military, are a little bit different than civilian specs. So as I mentioned, the barrel on this variation is the full 16.5 inches. I think 16 inches is legal for the US without having to be an SBR. The military variation is right about a 13-inch barrel, and the overall length of the gun is I think just under 22 inches. Again, and I've mentioned this before, if I get any of these specs incorrect as I'm saying them, I do fact check myself after making these videos. I'll post a little comment down at the bottom saying if I make a stupid goof, because I want to do that. So, like I said, EOTech 512 sight. I do plan on making this a hybrid sight and getting the magnifier that just rolls off the side here, and that'll definitely be nice. They make a little 3x zoom, so that'll be nice. It does hit pretty accurately at distance. This is not what I would call a sniper rifle by any stretch of the imagination. You see people trying to argue sometimes the AR platform is so much better than the bullpup platform because it's so much more accurate. But the fact of the matter is, if you're using 223, once you get out past 200-300 yards, you shouldn't probably be using an AR anyway. Even though you can hit it, it's just, that's not what they're made for. That's what 308 is for, or 6.5 Grendel, or there's better options for long range. But if you're looking for a carbine or carbine or however the heck you want to say it, there's always a never-ending debate about how to say that word. But you want something for CQB, this is fantastic. You can even, there's situations I've seen where you can use this in a car so easily, because you could be sitting in your seat and pull this up without hitting your dashboard and shoot right out the window or right out the side, and without any impedance because of how long the gun is, because it is so very compact. So we're going to go ahead and put a full 30 through it this time. Again, just charge. Safety off. Here we go. All right, that's it. It's an easy gun to use, guys. It feels nice. I've been very interested in them. This is actually kind of the gun that kicked off my gun craze. I found myself in a situation where I was just like, I don't really have any guns that are my own, just like my family's hunting rifles, and I kind of want to get something that's mine, you know? And I started doing some research, and I was just fascinated with these. I initially actually wanted a Steyr AUG. I'd always, like, ever since I saw the movie Die Hard, the original, that blonde German dude at the end of the movie comes out with a Steyr AUG, wielding it with one arm like a maniac, after being hung by a chain, no less, and just, you know, surviving that for no apparent reason. Because, you know, throwing Hans Gruber out of the, like, 60th floor window wasn't good enough. Look at me going on a tangent about Die Hard. Is it Christmas yet? So anyway, great gun. I love the thing. I highly recommend them. It is yet to fail me in any way, shape, or form. And at the distances that you would be using 223 or 5.56 NATO, this is going to do everything that you want it to do, and maybe more. The recoil buffering, because of the design, is fantastic. The way that it feels is just great. It is a little weird getting used to reaching back like so to grab your mag and put a new mag in back here, especially if you're used to an AR platform. Luckily for me, I wasn't. Like I said, this was my first. So, yeah. I will always love this piece. I will always advocate them. They do have newer models. The Tavor 7 is in 7.62 NATO, so that if you want your long-range Tavor, there you go. Or there's the Tavor shotgun, the TS-12. That is something that I fully intend to buy if and when possible. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Probably be doing another classic next week. Probably going to be a pistol, but maybe a rifle. I haven't done any classic rifles yet. I don't know. We'll see. Stick around and find out on Great Northwest Weaponry.